nation, but many other nations' satellites. And really, is this how Russia has to get people's attention?
Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says Russia is prepared to negotiate rules for space and says it's the Americans who are creating an arms race.
Imagine targeting one of Russia's most secure command hubs, armored walls, satellite uplinks, missile defenses, then watching it collapse in less than 40 minutes. That's exactly what Ukraine did when swarms of drones and robotic ground units converged on the Kuga satellite station. But how did a fortress worth billions crumble so quickly? The answer lies in a layered assault of deception, electronic warfare, and precision missiles that left Russian defenses chasing ghosts. Stay with us, because when you see how Kuga was brought to its knees, you'll understand why this battle signals the future of warfare. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Kuga was not just another military hub on a Russian map. It was the anchor point linking long-range artillery and missile systems across hundreds of miles of frontline terrain. From Donetsk in the south to Bryansk in the north, every battery, every launcher, every forward observation point depended on signals routed through this single uplink. With that link intact, Russia could coordinate precision fire and maintain constant pressure across the border. Without it, those same weapons became isolated machines, cut off from rapid targeting data. That is why Moscow poured more than $5 billion into shielding Kuga, transforming it into more than a satellite relay. It became a symbol of control, one they believed could endure even the most determined assault. For years, engineers, soldiers, and contractors worked on fortifying the site. They didn't rely on fences or concrete alone. Entire belts of short and medium-range air defense units surrounded the compound, each overlapping with the next. Radar towers were arranged in interlocking grids so that no approach route could pass undetected. Deep bunkers held the main data nodes, reinforced with layers of steel and soil capable of surviving heavy bombardment. The surface was bristling with launchers, command vehicles, and mobile interceptors always on standby. On paper, an attacker needed to break through multiple protective rings before even coming close to the uplink itself. It was the kind of setup designed to shrug off swarms of rockets or even tactical aircraft runs. But the real obstacle for anyone attempting to strike Kuga was the invisible one. Arrays of radars swept the sky 24 hours a day, feeding sophisticated tracking software meant to separate friend from foe in seconds. The network was hardened against most forms of jamming, using frequency agility and encryption to keep signals clear. Even the electromagnetic environment was hostile. Any unauthorized transmission risked immediate triangulation and artillery response. Batteries of heavy rockets had pre-plotted fire zones, ready to saturate any area suspected of hosting enemy launch crews or command vehicles. For Ukrainian planners, this meant the battle was just as much about controlling the spectrum as it was about suppressing defenses. The opening move was precise. Instead of one massive barrage, Ukraine launched a staggered wave of 24 loitering munitions alongside 6 Villa M rockets from well over 50 miles away. The goal was not only to damage the facility, but to overload its detection grid. Loitering munitions could circle and dive at unpredictable times, while Villa M's flew at high speed directly toward radar nodes. This blend forced defenders to confront targets behaving in very different ways, splitting their attention and buying critical seconds. It was the kind of plan where even partial success created room for the next phase of operations. Behind the missiles came the electromagnetic strike. Mobile teams positioned along the frontier activated decoy transmitters, projecting false launch signatures into the sky. Some jammers emitted signals mimicking the guidance of incoming drones, while others aimed to saturate frequency bands used by Russian interceptors. The effect was immediate. Radar screens lit up with dozens of ghost tracks, each requiring response from already busy defenders. Real weapons closed the distance while operators scrambled to distinguish what was genuine. It was the classic problem of defending against too much information. A system designed for clarity was suddenly drowning in noise. Inside the compound, operators of the Zoo Park counter battery radar picked up the first launches and passed coordinates to smirch rocket crews. Within seconds, salvos of heavy rockets streaked upward, exploding across suspected launcher sites. The response was massive, as expected, yet its efficiency eroded by misdirected fire. Every phantom target pulled resources away from the real threat. Interceptors raced to meet missiles that were never there, and each wasted shot reduced the chances of stopping the actual strikes. Confusion set in, not because defenders lacked weapons, but because their systems no longer agreed on what to engage. Even so, Russian interceptors managed partial success. 2 detonations lit up the sky as guided missiles caught phantom echoes and exploded harmlessly behind moving targets. One Vila M rocket absorbed a glancing hit, shed fragments, but continued on course. 4 more munitions, undetected until too late, cut right through the layers and raced toward antennas and command trailers. Their survival showed a vulnerability. No matter how many defenses existed, a well-timed electronic barrage could carve a brief but usable corridor. That corridor was all Ukraine needed to push the attack deeper. What followed reshaped the defenders' perception of safety. Systems they trusted to be unbreakable were now chasing ghosts. Operators fired at empty air, radars contradicted one another, and incoming fire kept slipping through. For the first time in years, the fortress felt exposed, and with exposure came panic. This unraveling created opportunities not just for airstrikes, but for specialized ground teams advancing under the cover of chaos. As sensors and launchers pointed upward, threats emerged on the ground, complicating defense even further. This stage marked the beginning of Kuga's decline. Billions invested in reinforced bunkers and advanced jammers could not shield it against synchronized deception. The advantage had shifted. Ukraine demonstrated how decoys, drones, and carefully timed missile strikes dismantled a network advertised as impenetrable. And as the smoke cleared from the first wave, another dimension of the battle began to reveal itself. What breached the outer perimeter wasn't ordinary infantry. It was the arrival of robotic units moving into the gap left by the shattered defenses. The strike on Kuga showed how a fortress worth billions can collapse without prolonged siege. Instead of heavy artillery and months of bombardment, drones, robots, and precision missiles did the work in a single coordinated operation. This marks a turning point, where synchronized assaults across air, land, and spectrum decide outcomes faster than firepower alone. It signals that layered warfare is no longer a choice, but a standard for survival. Whoever adapts quickest to this reality won't just defend their borders, they will control them. And the question remains, what fortress in the world can still claim to be safe?